Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Tuesday, April 21st, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, the Chinese president met with his counterpart from Mozambique in Beijing. Iran's negotiating team reportedly has a green light to begin a new round of peace talks with the U.S. And Washington's launched a program to reimburse billions of dollars of President Trump's tariffs. In business, Chinese industry reports strong growth in the first quarter. In sports, a thrilling comeback victory in the NBA playoffs. In culture and entertainment, checking in at the ongoing Beijing International Film Festival. Now the day's top stories. Chinese President Xi Jinping has held talks with his counterpart from Mozambique. Earlier in the day, President Daniel Chapo presented a wreath at the Monument to the People's Heroes at Tiananmen Square in Beijing. The capital city is the last leg of his state visit to China. Yo Young has more.
This is actually the first state visit to China by a head of state from Mozambique in 10 years. And it's also President Chapo's first visit to China since taking office. According to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, the visit aimed to promote the development of the China-Mozambique Comprehensive Strategic Cooperative Partnership and also to build the all-weather China-Africa community with a shared future for the new era. At the same time, to reinforce solidarity and cooperation in the global south. In fact, Beijing is the third stop of President Chapo's China trip, and he made central China's Hunan province his first destination, visiting an industrial park in the provincial capital city of Changsha, and also experiencing a number of new energy products. While the president then traveled to northwest China's Qinghai province, and stating his visit has a focus on development, President Chapo said the objective is to strengthen partnerships in the areas of energy, industry, and innovation. In December 2024, China began giving Mozambique zero tariff treatments on all tariff lines. And according to Chinese authorities, the bilateral trade volume between the two sides hit $5.4 billion last year, up 3.6% year on year.
That was Yo Young in Beijing. We spoke with Mozambique's Prime Minister about the African country's partnership with China. Maria Benvinda Levy shared hopes for deeper cooperation in areas including infrastructure, education, health, and digital transformation.
For the future, we want to continue and consolidate this relationship. And bearing in mind what our government's 5-year program is, one of the strategic areas is the area of infrastructures. Mozambique has several logistic corridors that serve the hinterland. So on this issue of the logistic corridors, it is very important to have functional routes, that is, roads, functional ports, and there we think that cooperation with China can be very important. But we also have the social area. We also prioritize the social area, education, health, and digital transformation. Today's world is digital, and China has great expertise. We believe China can invest not only in infrastructure, but also in digital transformation. This will be a partnership with mutual gains, leveraging China's potential and our resources through public-private partnerships to deepen our relationship.
That was Mozambique's Prime Minister on mutually beneficial cooperation with China. China says Japan's recent decisions on arms in the military have exposed falsehoods in the country's self-proclaimed status as a peaceful nation. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said the acceleration in remilitarization is a fact and reality with actual pathways and steps. A ministry spokesperson said the international community, including China, will remain highly vigilant and oppose any reckless move on Japan's new militarism. Japan officially revised the 3 principles on on transfer of defense equipment and technology, and their implementation guidelines to enable overseas sales of weapons, including those with lethal capabilities. While the revisions, in principle, prohibit the export of arms to countries where conflict is taking place, they allow for exceptions in special circumstances that take into consideration Japan's security needs. On the same day, Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi has sent a ritual offering to the Yasukuni Shrine. The speakers of both chambers of Japan's Diet followed suit. The shrine's dedicated to 2.5 million war dead, including 14 convicted Class A war criminals from World War II. And China's Foreign Ministry has condemned the visits, calling the venue a shrine for war criminals. Japan's move to scrap restrictions on the export of lethal weapons has drawn criticism and protests. Experts warn it'll be hard to disengage once the economy becomes dependent on the arms industry. Protesters say the shift is not helpful to Japan's development and international image.
Takaichi has long expressed a desire to advance these matters and is now taking action after coming into power. I definitely oppose this. Ultimately, what kind of country does Japan want to become? Is it a country that profits from selling weapons, or one that attracts more visitors to let them understand Japanese culture?
Exporting weapons with lethal capabilities is a violation of the Constitution to begin with. Gaining profits for the country or enterprises through this and producing weapons will lead to a cycle of death. I cannot accept it whatsoever. Whether possessing weapons or exporting them, I don't believe either can serve as a deterrent. On the contrary, it will only intensify tensions.
A demonstrator said exporting lethal weapons makes the self-defense force no longer defensive in nature, but rather a force capable of launching attacks. And for some discussions on this, Guoyan spoke with Rong Ying, chair professor at Sichuan University.
Professor, in your view, what does this signal about Japan's post-war pacifist identity?
Well, I think the change of Japan's export of weapons or arms represents a major historical shift, both in terms of the process and also in terms of the safeguard. This is very much a kind of a continued effort by Japan's right-wing forces to pursue for a kind of systematic dismantling of the post-war constitution. The process, the safeguard for that export was also being lifted or eased. The decision has been just made by the cabinet without informing to the Diet. That's why I think the Japanese public, more of Japanese public actually, if you look at the public opinions of Japan, over 49% of Japanese that are being sort of asked opposed to that change. Over the last weekend, over 30,000 protesters were against that change. So that's a very serious development, and that's a very dangerous move for Japan's sort of resurgence towards militarism.
Well, Takaichi sent ritual offering to war-linked Yasukuni Shrine, a symbol of Japanese militarism and wartime aggression. What does it say about Japan's leadership that it persistently engages in such internationally condemned actions, deliberately wounding the feelings of neighboring countries that suffered under its past aggression?
Well, Takaichi has been known for her frequent sort of visit to the Yasukuni Shrine, where over 14 Class 1 war criminals, the shrine, were respected. That was the nature of that shrine. And this time, Takaichi did not attend or visit the shrine in her person, but present like a ritual, which I think does not make any significant differences for Japan's neighbors, Chinese, Koreans, and countries in the region, which had suffered from the atrocities of Japan's imperial army's aggression. I think Takaichi, as a sitting prime minister, she really has to be very careful by respect the sentiments of its neighboring country, particularly Chinese and South Korean and the country in the region, without further provoking or harming the feelings of these neighboring peoples, victims in the region.
That was Professor Rong Ying commenting on Japan's move to officially ease arms export rules. It's been 4 years since China proposed the Global Security Initiative. Beijing's released a report analyzing the world security situation over the past year. It addresses growing instability driven by hegemony, while pointing to increasing cooperation among Global South countries. As Jiao Yunfei reports, China's Global Security Initiative is gaining broader backing.
As the world is facing a rising trend of power politics, the international community should foster unity and collaboration. That's the message delivered by the report on the global security situation released by the China Institute of International Studies. Conventional arms races have intensified over the past year, according to the report, while non-traditional security threats are looming.
In the 21st century, global security is no longer solely defined by conventional warfare or territorial disputes. While these continue to be significant concerns, new and multifaceted threats have emerged. These include cyber attacks, terrorism, and the destabilizing impacts of climate change.
The report says security challenges are emerging across multiple geopolitical blocs due to deep-seated structural issues. In contrast to the moves provoking hegemonism, the Global South is witnessing a collective rise. The report cites efforts by the Group of Friends for Peace on the Ukraine crisis, which was established by a coalition of the Global South. On the Palestine-Israel conflict, Qatar, Egypt, and other countries have endeavored to facilitate Gaza ceasefire negotiations. The report also highlighted China's role as an anchor for world peace.
As a natural member of the Global South, China advocates building an equitable and orderly multipolar world and has always firmly supported developing countries in enhancing their representation and voice in global security affairs. China is willing to work with the vast majority of Global South countries to implement global security initiatives and to continuously strengthen the Global South's capacity to safeguard peace and security.
According to the report, the Global Security Initiative proposed by China has received endorsement from over 130 countries and regional or international organizations as of the end of 2025. The initiative has also been written into 140 bilateral and multilateral documents, a clear call for cooperation and responsibility for peaceful development.
That was Jiao Yunfei on the international community heeding China's pursuit of peace. Coming up, Iran's negotiators reportedly have a green light to go ahead with peace talks with the U.S.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
At 13 past the hour, Iran's negotiating teams reportedly received the green light from Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei to begin fresh talks with the United States. The Iranian Foreign Ministry said U.S. provocative actions and ceasefire violations are major obstacles to continuing peace negotiations between the countries. Tehran has strongly criticized U.S. President Donald Trump's actions in the Strait of Hormuz and its approach to diplomacy. Ehsan Kivani has more.
An Iranian source familiar with the matter who participated in the first round of Iran-U.S. negotiations told China Central Television that due to the constantly changing words and actions of the U.S., Iran has developed a deep distrust of the U.S. We have similar reaction from the Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai, who said ever since the ceasefire started, Tehran has only seen bad faith and endless complaints from Washington. According to a report by Tasnim news agency close to the IRGC, the commander of the Pakistani army has informed U.S. President Donald Trump that the naval blockade of Iranian ports is an obstacle to negotiations. With Iranian vessels being confiscated or targeted by U.S. naval forces, things are getting worse here. The IRGC says the U.S. violated the ceasefire and engaged in maritime piracy. The IRGC has warned that Iran's armed forces will soon respond to and retaliate against what it calls this armed piracy by the U.S. military.
That was Ahsan Kevani in Tehran. U.S. President Donald Trump says it's highly unlikely he'll extend the ceasefire with Iran past the deadline on Wednesday. He said the Strait of Hormuz will remain blocked until the peace agreement's finalized. Jim Spellman has more.
U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to lead the U.S. delegation again for a second round of talks in Pakistan, along with President Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Vance is expected to depart Washington for Islamabad on Tuesday. This after back and forth about whether Tehran would participate in this round of in-person talks. The current ceasefire set to expire Wednesday. President Trump has renewed his threat to attack civilian power plants and bridges if no deal comes together. And he says he is not likely to extend the ceasefire, but similar deadlines have been extended in past negotiations. The status of the Strait of Hormuz remains a major flashpoint. Tensions rose throughout the weekend after the U.S. military fired on and disabled an Iranian cargo ship. Iran is vowing to, quote, take the necessary action against the U.S. military in retaliation. In addition to the Strait of Hormuz, another major issue remains the status of Iran's existing enriched uranium, which President Trump calls nuclear dust, and whether Iran will agree to limit future enrichment.
And that was Jim Spellman reporting. The Israeli military has announced a plan to extend the territories it occupies in southern Lebanon, incorporating 55 destroyed towns and villages into its new buffer zone. Lebanese citizens have been warned against returning to their homes in the area. Hezbollah has accused Israel of violating the ceasefire after the destruction of 39 villages in southern Lebanon since the truce began. Adel El-Marouki reports.
Days after the United States declared a ceasefire in Lebanon, Israel surprised the world with what it calls the Yellow Line, an extension to the occupied territories that in some places goes as deep as 10 kilometers into Lebanon. The IDF posted a map showing the occupied areas that even extend into the Mediterranean Sea, blocking navigation. Military officials said at least 55 towns and villages in the southern Lebanon are, quote, in the new security buffer zone, warning Lebanese citizens against returning to them.
There are some violations to the ceasefire the Israeli Defense Forces are doing. They are striking villages surrounding the territories they occupied, also the bombardment of houses. These aggressions are violations to the ceasefire, which was regionally and internationally endorsed.
Government supporters in Lebanon blame Hezbollah for the territories Lebanon lost during the latest war.
Lebanon knew from the first moment the ceasefire was discussed that Israel will keep the land it reached up to 8 kilometers deep. Hezbollah entered this war to liberate 5 points that turned into some 55 villages, not only geographically occupied, but also completely destroyed. The prime responsibility for this fall on Hezbollah, not the Lebanese government. Then second responsibility falls on Israel, which entered this war and occupied our territories.
Israel announced that citizens who approach the so-called Yellow Line will be considered a threat. At least one person has been reported killed so far. Hezbollah says it may respond to the ongoing bombardment of these villages.
We communicated with Iran to raise these violations in the Pakistani side to pressure the United States. The resistance is also studying the options it may resort to. It won't allow such violations to continue. The decision will be taken based on the evaluation to the status in the battle zone.
Since the fighting began, the Israeli military says Hezbollah has fired an estimated 5,500 rockets at Israeli troops in southern Lebanon and launched around 300 drones. The Lebanese government held the first direct talks with Israel in decades. President Michel Aoun hinted that he is willing to hold more talks. Hezbollah has rejected the direct talks held in Washington between Lebanon and Israel. In the meantime, the newly occupied Lebanese territories have become an additional bargaining chip for Israel in possible future talks with the Lebanese authorities.
That was Adel Al-Marouki reporting from Lebanon. Shipping disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz are raising concerns beyond energy markets. There are growing fears in France that the impact could spread through supply chains, eventually hitting businesses and consumers. Sarah Coates reports.
When people think of the Strait of Hormuz, it's usually oil that comes to mind. But when a major Gulf trade route is thrown into chaos, the fallout doesn't just stay in the Gulf. It can reach all the way to France. For the past several weeks, the strait has been effectively shut to most vessels with just a few exceptions, such as the French-linked container ship CMA CGM Cribby, which made it through.
When we look at CMA CGM, placing a temporary tax of $4,000 per container, and probably one container was probably $2,000 before. So that's a huge impact as well. Anybody transporting containers or things in the containers will have to pay this and reflect that in the prices. And we will have the impact on anything that comes from, for example, the Far East.
When shipping routes are disrupted, the impact doesn't stop at the port. It feeds directly through supply chains into transport costs and eventually into the price of goods sold at the shops. So while motorists may notice higher prices first, the wider concern is if this continues, French consumers could really feel the effects. And for some in France, that pressure is already shaping everyday decisions.
My parents have a house in the countryside that needs to be heated, and there came a point when we said to ourselves, we're going to have to do something, because with the price of heating, we thought we're not going to be able to go there in the winter anymore.
It's certain that the increase in the price of diesel and even kerosene for airplanes is going to have an impact on travel. We're already seeing airfare prices rise, and the same is true for goods and materials.
For now, the pressure is clearly on energy and travel, but supply chain experts say the wider hit to everyday goods may still be a few weeks away.
You're going to get some increases, and those increases will reflect in the final products, and the final products will hit this, I'd say, maybe it will take another 3 to 4 weeks.
But if disruption in the strait continues, the knock-on effects could spread much further, pushing up the cost of moving goods and, down the line, the price of everyday items too.
That was Sarah Coates on France facing higher costs as a result of the war in the Middle East. The Iraqi-Syrian border crossing gate in Nineveh province is reopened after a 15-year closure. The head of the Iraqi Border Ports Authority said the border gate will become the main gate for the development road. The border is expected to be a passage for oil to Syrian ports on the Mediterranean Sea. And coming up, Washington's launched a program to refund billions of dollars of the tariffs it's collected.
Discover the realities and responses to our changing climate with Climate Watch. Uncover critical issues such as the Masai Mara's disrupted wildebeest migration and the drop in the Panama Canal's water levels. Delve into solutions for a sustainable future. Tune in to Climate Watch on your favorite podcast platform. Become more eco-conscious and take action to protect our planet.
We're at 23 past the hour. The Trump administration's launched a program to refund billions of dollars in tariffs. The move comes 2 months after the Supreme Court ruled them unconstitutional. The sweeping duties sent global commerce into a tailspin. Owen Fairclough reports from Washington.
It's payback time for Trump's tariffs. The U.S. government's mechanism for refunding some $170 billion in collected duties ruled illegal is now operational. The US president's duties upended the global economy just weeks into his term, with import fees on goods from across the world, some as high as 50%. Many were negotiated down before the Supreme Court ruled most were illegal because Trump had exceeded his authority imposing them unilaterally. Now his administration has to refund up to 330,000 importers on some 53 million shipments. If that draws a line under some of Trump's tariffs, their impact endures as some of America's long-standing partners expand their business elsewhere.
We will bring into force an agreement that is precisely the right response to the upheavals we are currently experiencing.
Germany's chancellor on Monday touting the European Union's new free trade deal with South America. Brazil's president among delegates at a trade fair aimed at bolstering ties.
We're a country from the global south, and we have a keen interest in ensuring that our partnership with Europe, and with Germany in particular, becomes ever more productive.
In the meantime, Trump's U.S. trade representative was in Mexico on Monday to tighten rules that could further restrict trade in North America.
That was Owen Fairclough reporting. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says he would not have appointed Peter Mendelsohn as UK ambassador to the US if he'd known about failed security checks. Mendelsohn was fired 9 months into the job after his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein was revealed. Starmer told lawmakers he was not informed of the vetting failure before Mendelsohn took the post.
But, Mr. Speaker, before I go into the details, I want to be very clear with this House that while this statement will focus on the process surrounding Peter Mandelson's vetting and appointment, at the heart of this, there is also a judgment I made that was wrong. I should not have appointed Peter Mandelson. I take responsibility for that decision, and I apologise again to the victims of the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who were clearly failed by my decision.
Revelations prompted calls for Starmer to resign. Critics say the appointment shows poor judgment. Starmer's faced a series of challenges since leading Labour to an election victory in July of 2024. Migrants in Spain have begun applying in person for a mass legalization program that could benefit hundreds of thousands of people living and working in the country without authorization. Applicants with appointments can apply at over 370 post offices as well as Social Security and migration offices. Online applications open Friday. Trinidad Garcia is a Colombian immigrant.
Pues muy contenta, muy positiva.
I'm very happy and feel very positive. They promised I would receive notification. The lady was very attentive, very formal. She made copies of all the required documents and gave me a receipt, proving that I already filed an application and that I would receive a notification at home.
The program offers 1-year renewable residency and work permits to migrants who arrive before January 1st and have lived in Spain for at least 5 months and have a clean criminal law record. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has defended the move as an act of justice, saying it also supports the economy. The program sharply differs from tougher immigration policies elsewhere in Europe. Senior commanders changed sides from Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces to join the National Army. Major General Al-Nur Adam fled the RSF-controlled Darfur region earlier this month along with dozens of fighters. Army Chief General Abdel Fattah Burhan welcomed him in Sudan's northern province and said doors are open to all who lay down arms and join national reconstruction. Adam is one of the most senior officers to switch sides since the conflict began. The wars led to what aid groups call the world's largest humanitarian crisis, with millions facing famine, displacement, and violence. Romanian Prime Minister Ilie Bolojan has refused to resign after the main ruling coalition party announced the withdrawal of support. The Social Democratic Party warned that if Bolojan insists on staying in office, it'll recall all of its ministers from the government. The party is also considering filing a no-confidence motion to force the government's resignation. PSD members have expressed dissatisfaction with Bolojan's economic policies. Key members of the Prime Minister's National Liberal Party have expressed continued support. NASA has moved a key piece of its next moon rocket. On Monday, the largest section of the rocket rolled out of the Michaud Assembly Facility in New Orleans. It was loaded onto a barge for delivery to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The core stage is around 65 meters tall and has 4 engines. It provides more than 8 million pounds of thrust. The rocket will be used for the Artemis 3 mission. That's scheduled for next year. And that mission will test docking on the moon. It follows the Artemis 2 test flight, which concluded on April the 10th. We're at 29 past the hour. Beijing down to 9 this evening. It's cloudy and 23 on Wednesday. Shanghai will see moderate rainfall, easing off to a light rain tomorrow, a low of 14, a high of 18. Chongqing has a light rain and 15 overnight, becoming overcast and 22. Nanchang will see heavy rainfall overnight, easing to moderate tomorrow, a low of 16, a high of 18. Laos is getting showers this evening, cloudy and 17 tomorrow. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will be overcast and 20 overnight. It's a light rainfall and 34 for Wednesday. Vientiane will be cloudy and 25, then sunny and 38 degrees. Phnom Penh's getting some clouds overnight and tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 37. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, the Chinese president met with his counterpart from Mozambique in Beijing. Iran's negotiating team reportedly has a green light to begin a new round of peace talks with the United States. And Washington's launched a program to reimburse billions of dollars of President Trump's tariffs. Shane Megham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
From the refreshing cup of tea that starts your morning to the paper that you write on, the roots of many familiar parts of modern life can be traced back to ancient ideas. Join us on Made in Ancient China and discover how ideas born millennia ago became some of the world's greatest treasures. Made in Ancient China brings you stories of human ambition, inspiration, and connection. Now available on all major podcast platforms.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. Right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Megham with you on this Tuesday. Still to come. In business, Chinese industry reports strong growth in the first quarter. In sports, a thrilling comeback victory in the NBA playoffs. In culture and entertainment, checking in at the ongoing Beijing International Film Festival. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTN Radio. First of all, though, a check of the day's headlines. General Secretary Xi Jinping of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee is calling on China and Laos to enhance coordination, deepen strategic alignment, expand cooperation, and work together to face common challenges. He was speaking with a special envoy of the General Secretary of the Lao People's Revolutionary Party Central Committee. Xi Jinping also said the two sides should promote the high quality and high standard advancement of the China-Lao community with a shared future. Selumse Komiset said Lao firmly supports General Secretary Xi's global initiatives and is willing to deepen cooperation. China's lodged a protest after Japanese Prime Minister Sonai Takaichi's ritual offering to the notorious war-linked Yasukuni Shrine. The shrine in Tokyo honors 14 convicted Class A Japanese war criminals from World War II. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun says the shrine is a spiritual tool and symbol of Japanese militarism, waging wars of aggression against other countries, and that it is, in fact, a shrine for war criminals. He urged the international community to remain vigilant over Japan's historical revisionism and curb the country's moves toward neo-militarism. Meanwhile, Guo said China is seriously concerned about the Japanese government's revision of rules to allow overseas sales of weapons. He said the international community, including China, will remain vigilant over Japan's moves in the military and security fields. The remains of 12 Chinese People's volunteers who died in the war to resist U.S. aggression and aid Korea will return to China from South Korea on Wednesday. This will be the 13th repatriation since the two countries signed a handover agreement. South Korea will return the remains along with their personal items at Incheon International Airport in Seoul. Since 2014, the remains of 1,011 soldiers have come home. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says the country's strong economic ties to the United States have become a weakness that must be corrected. In a video address, Carney warned that such a relationship has become a liability.
Here's the current situation. The world, as I said earlier, is more dangerous and divided. The U.S. has fundamentally changed its approach to trade, raising its tariffs to levels last seen during the Great Depression. Many of our former strengths, based on our close ties to America, have become our weaknesses that we must correct.
Carney said U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs have hurt auto and steel workers. Many Canadians are also angered by Trump's comments suggesting Canada become the 51st state. Carney promised not to sugarcoat the challenges facing Canadians. His remarks follow his recent majority government win. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged governments to stop unchecked military spending, calling it madness. Speaking at a UN forum, he called for reversing the upward spiral of defense budgets, saying the world should not come together to end wars that push development out of reach. Guterres also stressed that borrowing should benefit developing countries, not work against them. He renewed his call for reforming the international financial architecture, arguing that current institutions still largely reflect outdated economic power structures. He also noted that developing countries now account for a large share of global output and trade, but lack proper representation. Guterres said global economic governance must become more inclusive, equitable, and effective. He emphasized that financing development is not just about economic progress. It's also about human progress and restoring trust in multilateralism. A report from the World Health Organization says artificial intelligence is rapidly gaining ground across European Union health systems. All 27 member states say better patient care is driving AI development. The report said 74% of EU countries already use AI-assisted diagnostics in areas including medical imaging and disease detection. Nearly two-thirds use chatbots to support patient engagement. Half have created dedicated AI roles in health. The WHO Europe office said workforce readiness is now a key focus, with countries adding AI literacy to medical training. The report also stressed the importance of involving patients and the public in AI governance. It urged governments to prioritize three areas: training health workers on AI ethics, ensuring inclusive policy development, and establishing centers of excellence to test technologies and create common safety standards. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in business, Chinese industry reports strong growth in the first quarter.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
37 past now. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed higher on Tuesday. The Shanghai Composite was up slightly. The Shenzhen Component gained about 0.1%. A component and battery shares were among the top gainers. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index climbed almost 0.5%. Japan's Nikkei increased nearly 0.9. China's industrial economy maintained steady performance in the first quarter. The Ministry of Industry and Information Technology says industrial output rose more than 6%. Production of industrial robots soared 33%, while integrated circuits increased 24%. More consumer products are adopting AI, signaling the country's rising innovation power. Lu Saray has more.
China's industrial output rose 6.1% in Q1. Over 80% of sectors expanded. Officials say the industry sector contributed nearly 40% of GDP growth.
工业经济较快增长。
Despite growing uncertainty abroad, China's industrial economy is on solid ground, thanks to its full-fledged industrial system. Going forward, the focus will be on steady growth, innovation, and integration. The goal is a stronger industrial economy and a good start to the 15th five-year plan period, from 2026 to 2030.
China's building a multi-layer computing system and working to better coordinate computing with electricity. It's also speeding up green power connections and high-speed broadband networks.
Next, we will follow a clear plan to boost the computing power industry by improving the quality of individual computing centers, strengthening the entire industry chain through innovation, connecting isolated computing resources into a single network, and enabling computing power to serve all sectors of the economy.
Officials also say they will strengthen communication and information infrastructure by expanding 5G coverage and also upgrading network facilities. They would also speed up research on frontier technologies, including 6G and next-generation internet, and also boost cross-border collaborative innovation.
That was Lu Saray reporting. The ministry also says efforts to promote and upgrade production capacity have advanced. The raw materials industry has made a good start to the year with a stronger pace of transformation and a more robust industrial foundation. The ministry added that more efforts will be made to accelerate the deployment of advanced materials and make breakthroughs in critical materials. For more on China's industrial economy, Vivian Nunes spoke with Liu Zhiqin, a senior researcher from Renmin University of China.
In the first quarter, more than 300 industry standards were issued. They were targeting the upgrading of traditional industries and the expansion of emerging industries. What opportunities then does China's quickly developing manufacturing sector offer foreign firms that are based here or those that are interested in investing?
I believe that these 300 new standards in the manufacturing section will raise the high attraction of China's manufacturing, especially for China's modernization and during the industrialization. This new 300 standard were telling the rest of the world that China's manufacturing and industrialization is going well with the high technology, with the smart industry, especially in China. The innovation forces in China are quite strong. It all shows that China's economy has real the resilience, dynamic, and the potential. This is the major power to attract the foreign investors, not only based in China, but also those investors are still outside of China. They are looking closely that in China what could be happening, what the profits they could have, especially the forecast feasible and also very foreseeable for China's economy is very clear. That gives them more confidence in China's future. Because China's manufacturing section is not only the competitiveness very strong, but also it's very dynamic. This is what the foreign investors, the foreign-based companies in China are very happy to cooperate with the Chinese companies because all this production line is enlargeable, it's very unlimited. That China can produce, can manufacture whatever they wish to have. This is the very capability to showing that China's effort for upgrading of this industrial section.
And there are also data to suggest that industrial companies in China are using less energy, that's per unit of value produced. What does this tell us about the shift toward a greener manufacturing sector?
Yeah, this is a very interesting picture. At the one side, China is now pushing all efforts to have more green development because we have already committed to the UN about the climate change and something in this field. But the other picture we see that in European countries, in America, some companies or even some government officials have given up their commitment to the green development. I have to say all these countries, they don't have enough the good the energy saving technologies and the facilities. Especially in China, we have the green technology and the facilities are well developed.
That was Senior Research Fellow Liu Zhiqin from Renmin University of China, offering his insights on China's industrial economy. China will reduce retail prices of gasoline and diesel from Wednesday to reflect recent changes in international oil prices. This is the first price cut of 2026 after 6 previous increases. The country's top economic regulator says gasoline prices will be cut by 555 yuan per metric ton. That's around $81, and diesel prices will drop by 530 yuan per metric ton. That means the price for 92-octane gasoline is going down by 0.4 yuan per liter, or around 5.5 cents. The price decrease for diesel will be similar. With the price adjustment, car owners will save around 22 yuan when filling up a 50-liter tank with 92-octane gasoline. The National Development and Reform Commission says it's instructed China's 3 largest oil companies, along with other oil refineries, to organize the production and transportation of refined oil products to ensure a stable supply. Under China's current pricing system, refined oil prices are adjusted based on fluctuations in international crude oil prices. The Commission added that government departments across regions should take stringent measures to crack down on activities violating national pricing policies and safeguard market order. Canada is expanding its air links with China to boost trade and economic ties. The Canadian government says airlines from both countries can gradually increase direct passenger flights, add up to 20 weekly cargo flights, and access more destinations. Transport Minister Stephen McKinnon called it a positive step for trade diversification and people-to-people connections. Trade Minister Maninder Sidhu says the move will strengthen export corridors and support long-term growth between Canada and China. Apple says CEO Tim Cook will become executive chairman of the company's board of directors, while its senior vice president of hardware engineering, John Turnus, will become the next CEO effective September 1st. The company says the board of directors has unanimously approved the leadership transition following a long-term succession planning process. Liz Miller is the vice president and principal analyst with Constellation Research.
I definitely think it will be a new signal to Wall Street, but it may also be an indicator that holding off on major spend or trying to figure out which way the market was going to go when it came to AI was actually a fairly smart bet. We're going to have to see the new leadership move very quickly, come up with what that vision is, and give us a very clear indication of exactly where Apple is going to play in both the infrastructure, the data, and the AI conversation.
According to Apple, Cook will remain CEO through the summer and work closely with Turnus to ensure a smooth handover. Cook says it's been the greatest privilege of his life to be Apple's CEO and describes Turnus as, without question, the right person to lead Apple into the future. Turnus says he's profoundly grateful for the opportunity to carry Apple's mission forward. Hong Kong has welcomed the latest batch of 22 strategic enterprises establishing or expanding their operations in the city. Many of these enterprises have a market valuation exceeding 100 billion Hong Kong dollars or 12.8 billion US dollars. They cover cutting-edge sectors such as the low-altitude economy, artificial intelligence, and financial technology. Pfizer is among the strategic companies introduced in this batch. The pharmaceutical giant reportedly plans to expand clinical trials and real-world studies in Hong Kong. Financial Secretary Paul Chan says this is a clear win for Hong Kong and for the enterprises. The Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises has attracted more than 120 companies so far. They are projected to bring approximately 73 billion Hong Kong dollars in investment and create about 25,000 job opportunities, including high-end research and development and management positions over the coming years. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, a thrilling comeback victory in the NBA playoffs.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
47 past now, and turning to sports. Here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. We begin with a thriller in the NBA. The Minnesota Timberwolves pulled off a stunning comeback, erasing a 19-point deficit to defeat the Denver Nuggets 119-114 in Game 2, leveling the playoff series. Julius Randle was clutch, contributing 24 points and 9 rebounds, including 2 vital free throws with 18.8 seconds left to seal the win and the tied Western Conference quarterfinals. Despite another stellar 30-point performance from Jamal Murray and 24 points, 15 rebounds and 8 assists from Nikola Jokic, the Nuggets' dynamic duo struggled in the fourth quarter, shooting just 2 for 12 combined. Anthony Edwards also stepped up for Minnesota, adding 30 points and 10 rebounds. Game 3 of this best-of-7 series is set for Thursday night in Minneapolis. Meanwhile, the NBA has named Victor Wembanyama Defensive Player of the Year. No player has ever received 100% of the first-place votes for the award until now.
I feel like I'm closing a chapter in my life. I think those close to me also feel that this is the end, but also the beginning of a new phase.
The San Antonio Spurs center received a perfect 100 first-place votes to unanimously win the prestigious award. At just 22, Wembanyama, also a candidate for Most Valuable Player, led the league in blocks for the third straight season, becoming the youngest player ever to earn the honor. Turning to the CBA, the Shanghai Sharks wrapped up their home season in style, dominating the Liaoning Flying Leopards 114-80 to extend their winning streak to 22 games. They finished with a perfect record at home, 21-0. This marks the first time since Yao Ming's playing days that Shanghai has finished the season unbeaten at home. The Sharks have been an unstoppable force this season, sitting atop the league with a 37-4 record. Next up, Shanghai will face Shandong in their final regular season game on the road. A victory would match their longest ever winning streak of 23 games, again set during the Yao Ming era in the 2000s. The Asian Beach Games kick off in Sanya on Wednesday. The Athletes' Village opened on Saturday. It features over 1,600 rooms and can accommodate up to 3,500 people. Over 200 official merchandise items are now available, and around 65,000 tickets for 10 sports have been released. This marks China's second time hosting the Games. In a standout night for tennis, Carlos Alcaraz and Aryna Sabalenka took home the prestigious Laureus World Sportsman and Sportswoman of the Year awards, each earning the honor for the first time in their careers.
Thanking all the fans, the love that I receive everywhere that I go is incredible. And it gives me the strength and motivation to keep going, to keep working hard, and to keep enjoying this sport that I love so much.
After, when I see the list of the winners from the previous years, makes me feel a little bit crazy to know that my name is going to be next to those legends, those athletes that I watched, I looked up to, but also a little bit emotional, to be honest, and speechless right now.
On the team front, Paris Saint-Germain basked in glory as Laureus World Team of the Year, following their historic first UEFA Champions League title in the 2024-25 season. Meanwhile, Formula One's Lando Norris, fresh off winning the World Drivers' Championship, claimed the breakthrough of the year. The World Snooker Championship continued at Sheffield's Crucible Theatre, with Ding Junhui advancing to the second round after a 10-5 victory over David Gilbert, setting up an all-Chinese clash with Zhao Xintong. Ding expressed excitement for the upcoming match against his compatriots.
It doesn't really matter who wins when I will face Zhao Xintong in the next round. Let's see if at this year's World Championship we can have a situation like at the World Grand Prix Hong Kong, where it came down to only Chinese players in the semifinals. That way, no matter who wins, the title still goes to a Chinese player. Achieving good results can help bring more recognition to snooker in China and attract more people to follow and learn the sport. I think it's even more important to help raise the overall competitive level of Chinese snooker.
Gilbert struggled from the outset, falling behind 7-2 after the first session. Despite rallying to make it 8-5 after the break, his comeback hopes were quickly dashed as Ding won remaining frames to seal the 10-5 victory. And finally, in football, West Ham has secured a vital Premier League point in a goalless draw against Crystal Palace. It ensures they are safe from relegation. The result denied Palace the chance to secure 3 consecutive home wins for the first time this season. Meantime, the Wolves are now officially confirmed as relegated.
All right, thank you very much. That's Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, and coming up in culture and entertainment, checking in at the ongoing Beijing International Film Festival.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
53 past the hour. Turning to culture and entertainment. The Beijing International Film Festival is in full swing. Star power is at an all-time high, and Julian Wagon's on the ground at the exclusive Tiantian Awards jury meet and greet, where cinema legends are deliberating over this year's top films from around the world.
A chorus of shutter clicks, a roll call of global cinema royalty. The Tiantian jury room is filled with heavyweights. Oscar winner Juliette Binoche, Chinese visionary director Vigilant, and the legendary Chuan An-han. French screen icon Juliette Binoche doesn't just bring her Oscar to Beijing. She brings her know-how from decades of storytelling and, above all, her impeccable intuition.
At the end of the day, it's the intuition that really is informing you of where you need to go. I was lucky enough to meet with wonderful directors, and really what I learned is follow your intuition.
From France to the foggy streets of Kylie, Vigilant, the director who bent on with a long day's journey into night, brings his surreal vision to the judging table. The winner of Future Folklist section at the festival is back a decade later to spot the future of global filmmaking as a judge.
A director's style is very important representation of his aesthetics. It embodies his outlook in life by way of a body of his works. So, style is definitely an essential element.
The master of the senses, Tran An-han, the Cannes Best Director winner for The Taste of Things, joins the mix. From the Santa Green Papaya to now, he knows exactly what transcends nationalities and language.
I think that cinema is a nationality by itself. When I'm making movies, I'm not Vietnamese or French. When I'm making a movie, I speak the language of cinema. So it's something that is universal.
And the jury's artistic range is just as powerful. Brazilian auteur and artist Gabriel Mascaro brings the grit of Venice and the soul of South America.
I think this festival is so important, and for us to be here, it's so special because Chinese market is so strategic, important, and we look forward to watch more and more film from China. And at the same time, we want to see more and more international movies coming to China to improve our cooperation, our interchange.
Also part of the powerhouse of jury members are Chinese actors Zhang Xiaofei and Zhang Yi, ready to spot the most riveting performances of the year.
It's Julian Wagon reporting. With its vibrant lion dance scenes and rich regional culture, the 2021 animated film I Am What I Am captivated audiences, and now this heartfelt tale leaps from screen to stage as a dynamic musical theater production. The story follows a young boy from a village in southern China who's drawn into the world of lion dance through training, setbacks, and self-discovery. He matures and learns the true meaning of courage. Jordan Chung, who plays that boy, describes the story as that of an underdog learning to roar, making what might be the boldest leap of all.
I've never really portrayed a character who's not a real person. Our acting style will be much more leaning on an animated film energy. Once the doors open, there's a lot of possibilities for you to portray a Gun and other characters too.
Lion dance, originating in Guangdong province, is a cherished symbol of Lingnan culture. A Chinese pop culture giant Pop Mart has announced a collaboration with Sony Pictures Entertainment to develop a feature film starring the toy character Labubu. The film will be a live-action and CGI hybrid with a preliminary script already in place. The story will follow a warm and touching journey as Labubu enters the human world. The film will be produced and directed by Paul King, the acclaimed filmmaker behind Paddington and Wonka. Labubu creator Kassing Lung will also serve as an executive producer. Pop Mart's The Monsters series, which includes Labubu, reached a major milestone last year, generating over 10 billion yuan, or nearly $1.5 billion US for the first time. We're at 57 past the hour. Beijing's dipping down to 9 degrees overnight. It'll be cloudy and 23 on Wednesday. Shanghai will see moderate rainfall overnight, easing to a light rain tomorrow, low 14, high of 18. Chongqing's getting some rainfall overnight. It's down to 15, overcast and 22 tomorrow. Nanchang has heavy rainfall overnight, down to 16, easing to moderate rainfall and rising to 18 degrees Celsius. That's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, the Chinese president's met with his counterpart from Mozambique in Beijing, and Washington's launched a program to reimburse billions of dollars of President Trump's tariffs. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the Yellow River in his eyes.
The Yellow River is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River, the second longest river in China, is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters, and what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing? What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river, and what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in the time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, our reporters visited the upper, middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river, and present their stories in pictures, podcasts and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio.